Betwabu. All right, y'all. Okay. So, happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy Tuesday. It is January 26, 2021, day 61 of year 3. I'm reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 730, day 730. Remember, that is without the Sabbath days and the feast day Sabbath days will be rest added in. Leviticus. All right, y'all. So today we're in Leviticus 15, 16, and 17. So let's go ahead and get started. Here. 90. Okay. All right, yeah. So let's go ahead and start with the Shema. Okay. Grand Rising, family. Okay, let me pull it up over here. Oh, wrong button. Oh, man, it's going to pop all that up. Let's close this. Put it right there. I'm sorry. Okay. The Shema. Okay, remember the Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 3, but I do recommend you read the entire chapter for the full context of everything. We just kind of pull the meat of it out. Hear therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel. Pay attention, people. Listen up. Hey, attention, please. Listen. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, he is one God, and you shall love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the posts of your house and your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do these commandments before Yahuwah our God as he has commanded us. All right, beautiful people. So let's get this going right here. Bring this back up over here. Oh. Oh. All right, y'all. All right, Leviticus chapter 15. All right. Bodily discharges is what we started with today, people. Okay. Yahuwah said to Moses and Aaron, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. Any man who has a bodily discharge is ceremonially unclean. This defilement is caused by his discharge, whether the discharge continues or stops. In either case, the man is unclean. Any bed on which the man with the discharge lies and anything on which he sits will be ceremonially unclean. So if you touch the man's bed, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourselves in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. If you sit where the man with the discharge has sat, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until the evening. If you touch the man with the discharge, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. If the man spits on you, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. Any saddle blanket on which the man rides will be ceremonially unclean. If you touch anything that was under the man, you will be unclean until evening. Like you gonna just go on, get on out of here to the next day. Go to bed. Go do something. Just get away from here. Don't come back in here till tomorrow. Until evening, right? Any saddle blanket on which the man rides will be ceremonially unclean. If you touch anything that was under the man, you will be unclean until the evening. You must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until the evening. If the man touches you without first rinsing his hands, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. Any clay pot the man touches must be broken, and any wooden utensil he touches must be rinsed with water. Y'all see where some of us kind of get our germaphobe, our germaphobe personality from, right? I ain't gonna say all that, but Yahuwah's like, listen, look, don't come in here with that foolishness. Get away from me. Now you done made me. I gotta go wash. Look, I gotta go wash my hands. I gotta go bathe and wash my clothes. When the man with the discharge is healed, he must count off 7 days for a period of purification. So this would be any kind of discharge he would have, right? So this is not talking about semen, although we're about to get to that part. This is anything that's going on with the man's body, with you discharging from any orifice in your body. It makes you're unclean, you're ceremonially unclean, and anything that you touch or touches you becomes ceremonially unclean. Both of y'all need to go into quarantine, right? Okay. When the man with the discharge is healed, he must count off 7 days for the period of purification. Then he must wash his clothes and bathe himself in fresh water, and he will be ceremonially clean. On the 8th day, he must get 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons and come before Yahuwah at the entrance of the tabernacle and give his offerings to the priest. The priest will offer 1 bird for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. Through this process, the priest will purify the man before Yahuwah for his discharge. Now we're about to talk about the other type of discharge that men have. Whenever a man has an emission of semen, he must bathe his entire body in water. He will remain ceremonially unclean until the next evening. Any clothing or leather with semen on it must be washed in water, and it will remain unclean until the evening. After a man and a woman have sexual intercourse, they must each bathe in water, and they will remain clean until next evening. Let's just pause here real quick. Not saying you guys do this, but if anybody come across this video and you did not know that you should bathe after you have sexual intercourse with your spouse, you should. And not only that, y'all need to pull them sheets off the bed and wash them. Put fresh sheets on your bed. If you guys are in the habit of being intimate every single day, this is a process that must happen every single day. You don't just get up going on about the room and take your butt right into the bathroom. Both of you go get in the shower. Preferably, you should get in there together. It makes it a little more fun to shower. But go shower, cleanse yourself, or you can pull the sheets. Pull the sheets first. Go shower. And after you clean, pull out the clean sheets. Put them on the bed. So that should happen every single time. Don't just, you done get up, get dressed, go and get out of the house. No, that is unclean for you. Go shower, the both of you, always, every single time. Change the sheets every single time. Okay. I didn't think that I needed to say that, but just in case, right? Just in case you didn't know. Okay, I read it again. Whenever a man has an emission of semen, he must bathe his entire body in water, and he will remain ceremonially unclean until the next evening. Any clothing or leather with semen on it must be washed in water, and it will remain unclean until evening. After a man and a woman have sexual intercourse, they must each bathe in water, and they will remain unclean until the next evening. Whenever a woman has her menstrual period, she will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days. Anyone who touches her during that time will be unclean until evening. Anything on which the woman lies or sits during the time of her period will be unclean. If any of you touches her bed, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourselves in water, and you will remain unclean until the evening. Now, I do know that with the what's the word? How things have changed over time, and women have better ways of kind of monitoring their monthly and keeping it a little more neat. Things don't get so messy, so to speak, if you're properly caring for yourself. So I would say, because I would venture to say that these laws are still in place, because depending on where you live, you may not have access to some of the things that we readily have access to, like pads and tampons. So some people may really still have to follow this just like that, right? Because, you know, it can get a little messy sometimes, especially if you don't have the right tools to do it, and if you're in a place where you don't readily have clean water to clean yourself, you know, thank the Most Holy that we're in captivity in America, right? So we have access to a lot of those things where we can properly care for ourselves during this time, right? Okay. I just start that up. It was only 2 scriptures down. Whenever a woman has her menstrual period, she will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days. Anyone who touches her during that time will be clean until evening. Anything on which the woman lies or sits during the time of her period will be unclean. If any of you touch her bed, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourselves in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. If you touch any object on which she has sat on, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. This includes her bed or any other object she has sat on. You will be unclean until evening if you touch it. If a man, listen, y'all, if a man has sexual intercourse with her and her blood touches him, her menstrual impurity will be transmitted to him. He will remain unclean for 7 days, and any bed on which he lies will be unclean. Now, let me just pause right here real quick, right? So, right there, this is not giving permission to any man to have sex with a woman while she is on her menstrual cycle. How do we know that? Because as we read further along, Yahuwah will tell us that a man is not supposed to have sex with a woman while she is on her menstrual cycle. For one, it's nasty, right? It's unclean, unsanitary, right? Okay. You don't do that. Also, it is a proven fact that if you disobey this command, somewhere down the line, if you're in the habit of practicing this, you will find yourselves among the women who have cervical cancer, right? There has been a study done on this very thing, right? And they found out, and also by pulling some of they use some of the Jewish people too, women that actually kind of keep to some of this stuff that don't have, not saying that they're the only ones, but first of all, you would know it's something going on down there. We can't, let's wait a few days. You know, we can't do that right now. But I don't know what happens. I just believe it's a repercussion for direct disobedience to this law, right? Yahuwah has set all laws in motion and play on the earth. Like every law and everything that he is going to set in motion has already been set in motion. Just like if you throw something up, it's going to come down. You jump off a building, unless you are operating in a law that supersedes the current law that you are about to violate, you're going to hit the ground. Just like the law of aerodynamics, right? There is, when you fly, there are different laws at play that will allow this heavy machinery and all these people to stay suspended in the air and fly. It had to find another law that superseded the law that what goes up must come down. You have to find a law that, for one, is safe. It's a safe route, but it'll keep you suspended. It operates with this law, and it'll help you kind of supersede this law here in order to get to where you're going, right? So you got like the law, the lift, and all the laws in aerodynamics, which supersedes the gravity law, right? To help you accomplish something, right? So it's the same thing. If you have sex with a woman while she's on her menstrual cycle, not only is it going to be messy and it's unsanitary, but eventually things is going to start messing up on her insides. And she will find, if she makes a constant practice of that, she will find out that she has cervical cancer, right? And it's only going to be the most holy that heals you of that, right? Okay, hold on. Yes, you did. Trainers. This was about the cleansing yourself after the intercourse. Yes, you did. We smelled a couple at Walmart one time. It did not smell good. I guess they don't know. Apparently not. They just did it. Let's go to the stove.
Wait a minute, what was y'all talking about?
Cleansing yourself after sexual intercourse.
Oh, wow.
We didn't just like.
I know you did. I know. Wow.
Yeah, so
this needed to be talked about. For some people don't know.
Right. So my husband, like some people, they just don't know. So your husband is unclean the whole time you're on your cycle because you slept in the same bed. Yes, apparently, Dana. Unless y'all sleeping in separate beds during the time of her purification. So, but yeah. Okay, y'all. So let's bring our attention back to here. Yeah. So just. Yeah, Alicia said, or don't care. Yeah, some people just don't care. But yeah, you'll find that it fares well for you if you just practice these habits of cleanliness. Whenever you have sex, change the sheets, shower, keep everything clean, right? Because
I'll never put that past. Got to, man. Old school.
Yeah, old school. Okay, y'all, let's finish this. Okay. So,
Summer Eve is my friend.
Some people need Summer's Eve.
Yeah, I love you.
All right, let me do that. If a man has sexual intercourse with her and her blood touches him, her menstrual impurity will be transmitted to him. He will remain unclean for 7 days, and any bed on which he lies will be unclean. So I would say this is probably there for one, just in case maybe you weren't keeping track of your cycle and you didn't know you was about to come on, right? And then you and your spouse just happened to be having intercourse and your cycle came. I guess that kind of covers that. Oops, we didn't know. But a lot of, we're all adults here, right? But a lot of times, let me make sure I word this appropriately, right? A lot of times that, I don't know. I just want to make sure I say this the right way, because sometimes I guess it depends on the woman and her cycle. Sometimes the blood kind of, forgive me if many here, but I want to make sure I say this the right way, because sometimes you may not be on your cycle, and you and your spouse, you go to have intercourse, and then you find out, oops, oh, my cycle just started. But sometimes, most of the time, I would venture to say, well, probably if you're keeping track, you can kind of circumvent that altogether, and you won't have those oops moments. But you'll be able to tell, right? I just want to make sure I say this in the right way. That it'll be rare that happens. And even if you do just start it won't be like a complete bloody mess. Like, oh my gosh, oh, my cycle came. All right, boom. We got to stop, right? So if you had one of those type moments right there, and I think this is what that is referring to. Not that you on your cycle, I don't care, let's get it on. It's not one of those type things. This is saying like, okay, we didn't know my cycle was about to come, but we were having intercourse, or oh my gosh, my cycle is here. I think put this here for those instances right there. But if a woman is full blown on her cycle, and you on your cycle, he know you on your cycle, and y'all still want to do that is improper. Yahuwah say, do not do that, right? Like I remember I was in the military, guys, they talk about stuff. You kind of sitting there working, and guys, sometimes they have conversations and it kind of they start talking about this stuff. And one day I heard somebody was like, yeah, I got my red wings. And I'm like, I was working in flight control. And I'm like, I'm sitting here on watching flight control, doing my work. And the guys were just talking. I wasn't in their conversation, but I heard them, because in air department, you got air warfare, wings and stuff. It kind of perked up because I'm like, oh, is this a new, like something I can study for, right? But I really quickly realized that they were talking about them having intercourse with their women while they were on their cycles. And that's what they were talking. I was like some people, like Lisa just said, they said they just don't care. Like they don't care. Can we use chucks? Did you just ask me? Wait, first of all, for you to ask me, okay, for everybody, we're not talking about the shoes. Chucks are the hospital pads that you lay, that people, is like them long pads that you lay up there just in case patients have accidents. Those are chucks. If you need to ask yourself that question, can we use chucks? You should know and understand that you're probably close to the time of your cycle and you probably shouldn't, right? So if you got to ask that question, can we use chucks? It's probably a no-go. Probably just need to wait. Okay, we spent enough time on this subject. Verse 25, if a woman has a flow of blood for many days that is unrelated to her menstrual period, or if the blood continues beyond the normal period, she is ceremonially unclean. During her menstrual period, the woman will be unclean as long as the discharge continues. Any bed she lies on and any object she sits on during that time will be unclean, just as during her normal menstrual period. If any of you touches these things, you will be ceremonially unclean. You must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. When the woman's bleeding stops, she must count off 7 days. Then she will be ceremonially clean. On the 8th day, she must bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons and present them to the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle. The priest will offer one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. Through this process, the priest will purify her before Yahuwah for the ceremonial impurity caused by her bleeding. This is how you will guard the people of Israel from ceremonial uncleanness. Otherwise, they would die, for their impurity would defile my tabernacle that stands among them. These are the instructions for dealing with anyone who has a bodily discharge, a man who is unclean because of an emission of semen, or a woman during her menstrual period. It applies to any man or woman who has bodily discharge, and to a man who has sexual intercourse with a woman who is ceremonially unclean. Okay, that was a pretty exciting chapter, right? When we don't read the law, we don't even know that this is here. So it benefits us to read it, right? Okay, the Day of Atonement, Leviticus chapter 16. Yahuwah spoke to Moses after the death of Aaron's 2 sons who died after they entered Yahuwah's presence and burnt the wrong kind of fire before him. Yahuwah said to Moses, warn your brother Aaron not to enter the most holy place behind the inner curtain whenever he chooses. If he does, he will die. For the ark's cover, the place of atonement, is there, and I myself am present in the cloud above the atonement cover. When Aaron enters the sanctuary area, he must follow these instructions fully. He must bring a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He must put on his linen tunic and the linen undergarments worn next to his body. He must tie the linen sash around his waist and put the linen turban on his head. These are sacred garments, so he must bathe himself in water before he puts them on. Aaron must take from the community of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. Aaron will present his own bull as a sin offering to purify himself and his family, making them right with Yahuwah. Then he must take the 2 male goats and present them to Yahuwah at the entrance of the tabernacle. He is to cast sacred lots to determine which goat will be reserved as an offering to Yahuwah and which will carry the sins of the people to the wilderness of Azazel. Aaron will then present a sin offering, the goat chosen by lot for Yahuwah. The other goat, the scapegoat chosen by lot, will be sent away, will be kept alive, standing before Yahuwah. When it is sent away to Azazel in the wilderness, the people will be purified and made right with Yahuwah. Okay, this right here, Azazel is talking about the lead angel who caused all mankind to go astray with when they came down and they began to have sex with the sons. I'm sorry, I keep saying sons, with the daughters of men. Right? So this is that Azazel right there, right? Okay, that's another whole, that's gonna take us off for a few minutes. So I just want to kind of bring that up. But if you go back and if you read through Enoch, you'll kind of understand this a little bit better. But we don't really have time to kind of like really get into detail about that. But that's what that's talking about. Okay. Aaron will present his own bull as a sin offering to purify himself and his family, making them right with Yahuwah. After he has slaughtered the bull as a sin offering, he will fill an incense burner with burning coals from the altar that stands before Yahuwah. Then he will take 2 handfuls of fragrant powdered incense and will carry the burner and the incense behind the inner curtain. There in Yahuwah's presence, he will put the incense on a burning coal so that a cloud of incense will rise over the ark's cover, the place of atonement, that rests on the ark of the covenant. If he follows these instructions, he will not die. He must then take some of the blood of the bull, dip his finger in it, and sprinkle it on the east side of the atonement cover. He must sprinkle blood 7 times with his finger in front of the atonement cover. Then Aaron must slaughter the first goat as a sin offering for the people and carry its blood behind the inner curtain. There he will sprinkle the goat's blood over the atonement cover and in front of it, just as he did with the bull's blood. Through this process, he will purify the most holy place, and he will do the same for the entire tabernacle because of the defiling sin and rebellion of the Israelites. No one is allowed inside the tabernacle when Aaron enters it for the purification ceremony in the most holy place. No one may enter until he comes out again after purifying himself, his family, and all the congregation of Israel, making them right with Yahuwah. Then Aaron will come to purify the altar that stands before Yahuwah. He will do this by taking some of the blood of the bull and the goat and putting it on each of the horns of the altar. Then he must sprinkle the blood with his finger 7 times over the altar. In this way, he will cleanse it from Israel's defilement and make it holy. When Aaron has finished purifying the most holy place and the tabernacle and the altar, he must present the live goat. He will lay both of his hands on the goat's head and confess over it all the wickedness, rebellion, and sins of the people of Israel. In this way, he will transfer the people's sin to the head of the scapegoat. Then a man specially chosen for the task will drive the goat into the wilderness. As the goat goes into the wilderness, it will carry all the people's sin upon itself into a desolate land. When Aaron goes back into the tabernacle, he must take off the linen garments he was wearing, and he must take off the linen garments he was wearing when he entered the most holy place, and he must leave the garments there. Then he must bathe himself with water in a sacred place, put on his regular garments, and go out to sacrifice a burnt offering for himself and a burnt offering for the people. Through this process, he will purify himself and the people, making them right with Yahuwah. He must then burn all the fat of the sin offering on the altar. The man chosen to drive the scapegoat into the wilderness of Azazel must wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. Then he may return to the camp. The bull and the goat presented as sin offerings, whose blood Aaron takes into the most holy place for the purification ceremony, will be carried outside the camp. The animal's hides, internal organs, and dung are all to be burned. The man who burns them must wash his clothes and bathe himself in water before returning to the camp. On the 10th day of the appointed month in early autumn, you must deny yourselves. Neither native-born Israelites nor foreigners living among you may do any kind of work. This is a permanent law for you. This is talking about the Day of Atonement. On that day, offerings of purification will be made for you, and you will be purified in Yahuwah's presence from all your sins. It will be a Sabbath day of complete rest for you, and you must deny yourselves. This is a permanent law for you. He's going to keep on repeating this. It comes 9 days after the Feast of Trumpets. So the Day of Atonement is always the 10th day of the 7th month, right? This is a permanent law for you. In future generations, the purification ceremony will be performed by the priest who has been anointed and ordained to serve as high priest in place of his ancestor Aaron. He will put on the holy linen garments and purify the most holy place, the tabernacle, the altar, the priest, and the entire congregation. This is a permanent law for you to purify the people of Israel from their sins, making them right with Yahuwah once each year. Moses followed all these instructions exactly as Yahuwah has commanded him. All right, y'all, last chapter in Leviticus before we hop over here to Legends of the Jews. Leviticus chapter 17. Prohibitions against eating blood, y'all. We talked about this a little bit before, but here we're about to go into detail for all people. I know ain't none of y'all doing it, but just in case somebody scroll past, there's no ingestion of blood in any fashion. None. Let me just read. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, give the following instructions to Aaron and his sons and all the people of Israel. This is what Yahuwah has commanded. If any native Israelite sacrifices a bull or lamb or go anywhere inside or outside the camp, instead of bringing it to the entrance of the tabernacle to present it as an offering to Yahuwah, that person will be as guilty as a murderer. Such a person has shed blood and will be cut off from the community. The purpose of this rule is to stop the Israelites from sacrificing animals in the open fields. It will ensure that they bring their sacrifices to the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle so he can present them to Yahuwah as peace offerings. Then the priest will be able to splatter the blood against Yahuwah's altar at the entrance of the tabernacle, and he will burn the fat as a pleasing aroma to Yahuwah. People must no longer be unfaithful to Yahuwah by offering sacrifices to the gold idols. This is a permanent law for them to be observed from generation to generation. Give them this command as well. If any native Israelite or foreigner living among you offers a burnt offering or sacrifice, but does not bring it to the entrance of the tabernacle to offer it to Yahuwah, that person will be cut off from the community. If any native Israelite or foreigner living among you eats or drinks blood in any form, I will turn against that person and cut him off from the community of your people, for the life of the body is in its blood. I have given you the blood on the altar to purify you, making you right with Yahuwah. It is the blood given in exchange for a life that makes purification possible. And that is why I have said to the people of Israel, you must never eat or drink blood, neither you nor the foreigners living among you. Now, let me tell you something. Let me just bring this out. It might get us off just a little bit, but I just want to say something here, right? When we begin to read Yahuwah's law, right? When we become familiar with it, it begins to open our eyes to some of the leaven that has been added in the scriptures, right? Let me make sure I word this appropriately. Because once we get, just hear me out to the end of what I'm saying, y'all. Once we arrive in the New Testament, right? It seems as if a lot of what Yahuwah has told us to do has been flipped around, right? And it tells us to do what Yahuwah has told us not to do. This being one, right? Now I need y'all to take this, read it, and I need y'all to actually look and compare. Now, let's think about this principle. When Yahuwah tells us not to do something, does it give us the freedom to practice and act like we doing it, even if we're not really doing it? Like it says right here. This is why I have said to the people of Israel, you must never eat or drink blood, neither you nor the foreigners living among you, right? We ain't supposed to do it for real, and we ain't supposed to fake like we doing it, right? Y'all agree with me on that? But when we get over, we now have to take something into consideration where it tells us to eat and drink my blood. That immediately caused a red flag to go up in me, because Yahuwah says you must never eat or drink blood. Yet when we get over here, it tells you to fake like you're eating and drinking Yahuwah's blood. You're absolutely right, Katrina. The communion, right? The act of communion has us acting like we're eating and drinking blood. When Yahuwah said you must never eat or drink blood, neither you nor the foreigners living among you. I know that's going to disrupt some of y'all life, but I just wanted to make sure you are paying attention. I need to break y'all state. I need to make sure y'all not reading this book completely asleep. And you need to be able to pay attention. I like what somebody said before. It's like, while being in captivity, Yahuwah still allows us to be tested in different forms and fashions, right? And they have labeled the books like Old Testament and New Testament. I would venture to say, just like this one gentleman said, he said, we would probably want to call the New Testament the New Test, to see if you've actually been paying attention to the actual manuscript and what Yahuwah has said out of his mouth. Because if we have not read this, we're going to fail the test over here, and we're not going to be able to pick out immediately what goes against what Yahuwah has said out of his mouth. Now, what do we do with that? Now it's time for us to make a choice, right? Yahuwah said, I've set life and death before you. You choose. But let me help you out. Choose life. The words of the Most High, the only Savior, the only Redeemer of the nation of Israel, and I'm only talking to the nation of Israel. I'm not talking to the European converts who call themselves Jewish. I'm not talking to them. I'm talking about the people of the book, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The only one we listen to, the only words of any mighty one that we listen to is Yahuwah himself. Now, when we don't get familiar with reading through the Torah, I don't like the term Old Testament because it's a misnomer. It really throws you off. It screws you up. But for the sake of what we're talking about, the Old Testament, right, which is the words, the living words of the Most High that we are to abide by forever, permanently, we're only to listen to him. And I'm going to share something that happened with me yesterday. I shared with my mama. Let me tell you something. So when we don't listen to the words of Yah and we just listen to, it's like you go straight to the test. Sometimes it's like you don't want to study, you just want to get it over with. I'm just go take the test. But now you hop upon the test. Now you can't figure out all the strategically worded questions that's designed to throw you off to see if you was actually paying attention to this part right here. And there's a whole bunch of them over here, right? You fail the test, right? And you begin lining up with over here with information that Yahuwah tells us not to do. And then the thing is, when you try to alert people, ooh, you might want to check into that. We ain't supposed to be doing that. We ain't supposed to be eating and drinking blood. We ain't supposed to be faking, not even for play. We ain't supposed to be doing that. Like, once I found that out, I wanted to throw up. I'm like, Father, forgive me for every time I did it, pretending like I was eating and drinking the blood, eating flesh and drinking blood. I'm like, what? How could I even? I'm just, guys, let me tell you something. I darn near passed out when I really, and I was doing it so ignorantly, like, yes, eating this flesh and drinking this blood. And I'm like, I'm telling guys, let me tell you something. When I said my eye shooketh all the way down in my shana now, when I realized I was doing what you like blatantly, although I was ignorant. But Yahuwah tells us, it said, even if you didn't know, you still guilty. Because you should know, right? You should know. There should be enough people among us that understand and know the truth that at least, you might want to check into that. I don't know about that. Says check into that first before you do that. I don't know. At least check into it first before you fully throw yourself into it, right? Yahuwah said, you still guilty if you're ignorant of it, right? So I'm just like, ooh. And from that time, every time I just, ooh, y'all in trouble. Y'all better not do that. Don't, like, right? So I just want to bring that out. I know that's going to mess some people up. And I purposely said that today to mess you up if you had not paid attention. Now we're given a choice. Are we going to obey what the Most Holy has said? You must never eat or drink blood. Or we're going to listen to other people. And you got to realize the New Testament is accounts of other people's experience and their teachings, trying to reteach what Yahuwah has taught us, right? But some things don't line up. And you have to be able to decipher between the two. You have to be able to eat the meat and spit out the bones, right? Because even we see John back there telling us, you better keep to the commands of the Most High. Keep to the commands of Yah. Those who love Yah, keep his commands. Did not John say that? He was trying to tell them, but sometimes when we turn away and we listen to voices of another, we get thrown off. Oh, yes. I gave why such a great deception. Did y'all know that? I'm about to throw some other people off here if you hear. It talks about the great deception. You all know what the great deception is. Let's just go ahead and throw this out here and we're going to read the rest of this. Y'all know what the great deception is? Christianity is the great deception. I'm going to just put that out there. We talking about it, we'll put it out there. I'm telling you, because once you start reading the actual words of Yah that have been put together, like, let me tell you something. These two books, I just put a little bit out there just so you can start thinking about some stuff, right? These two books were never together, right? The Old Testament and the New Testament, they used to always be separate until they decided to merge the two together like they were one book, right? It's a lot of different things you got to think about. Like when you start, it's like if you don't read it, you never pay attention to the details. But once you start reading it, you cannot ignore the details. Like, don't just read it religiously, like, and you're not paying attention. You're just reading it for the sake of reading, but really reading it to understand the truth of the Most High. And like, oh, shoot, what do I do with this? And why does this do this? And why? I'm telling you, y'all need to pay attention, right? Because that is not the eating and drinking blood, the communion thing. It is not the only thing that throws us off, that brings us into immediate disobedience to the commands of the Most High, right? We get ourselves in trouble. And I started realizing, I'm like, ooh, this is why some prayers work and some prayers don't work. You're serving two gods. You're following the voice of another. And it seems so innocent, and especially when you're brought up into it and just add a little bit of praise and worship to it and kind of pump it up a little bit. No, you're still wrong. You're going to get in trouble. Yes, I did too. The only time I didn't do it was when I had sin. If you know what I mean. I know what you mean, Trina. Trina said, the only time I ain't do is when I sin. Like, if you know what I mean. I know what you mean. Okay. So I just want to bring that out. I'm going to bring our attention back to this. Let me just read this again. But y'all have got to pay attention. I don't care who said it in the New Testament. I don't care what their title is. If what they're saying does not line up with what Yahuwah says, anyway, you can't change what Yahuwah says. If he say, don't eat blood, don't drink blood, you're not supposed to physically eat it or drink it, and you're not supposed to think about eating or drinking it, and you ain't supposed to play like you drinking it or eating it, right? And that's what begins to happen. You must eat my flesh and drink my blood. I'm like, like they say, the devil is a liar. You will say we ain't supposed to play like that. And so it really started shaking up some stuff on the inside. It's there to start jolting you awake. Like, wait a minute, what is going on here? And when you have a heart to do what's right and keep the words of the Most High, He will begin to allow these disruptions in your spirit to happen, to wake you up and to pay attention, right? Because there are subtle things. Think about yesterday when we was reading, when the Amalekites, it was talking about the cloud of glory when they were out in the wilderness, and those who weren't kind of keeping the commands, they found themselves outside of the protection of the glory cloud, and the Amalekites were able to pick them off. When we don't keep to the words of the Most Holy, we're able to be picked off because we don't know His words, and we find ourselves outside of the cloud of protection, and we die before our time. We are cut off. We cut our own self off for our own ignorance. Okay. Listen, if any native Israelite or foreigner among you eats or drinks blood in any form, for real, or pretending like it for play, if any native Israelite or foreigner living among you eats or drinks blood in any form, I will turn against that person and cut him off from the entire community of your people. For the life of the body is in its blood. I have given you blood on the altar to purify you, making you right with Yahuwah. It is the blood given in exchange for life that makes purification possible. This is why I have said to the people of Israel, you must never eat or drink blood, neither you nor the foreigners living among you. Hold on, Dana. I asked a question about that this weekend. They thought I had wandered off track telling me about the spotless blood. Yeah, see, they don't, whoever that was, they are not familiar with the words of the Most High. And they are thoroughly indoctrinated with the church teaching that goes against what Yahuwah has said. Okay. If any native Israelite or foreigner living among you goes hunting and kills an animal or bird that is approved for eating, he must drain its blood and cover it with earth. The life of every creature is in its blood. This is why I have said to the people of Israel, you must never eat or drink blood, for the life of any creature is in its blood. So whoever consumes blood will be cut off from the community. If any native-born Israelite or foreigner eats the meat of an animal that died naturally or was torn up by wild animals, they must wash their clothes and bathe themselves in water. They will remain ceremonially unclean until the evening, but then they will be clean. But if they do not wash their clothes and bathe themselves, they will be punished for their sin. All right, y'all. So that's all the chapters of Leviticus today. I think I'm going to make our title. I wasn't sure what the title was going to be today. That's why I didn't put a title on Facebook, and I just did like day 61 over here. But I think the title today is going to be in the terms of this blood thing right here. I always try to back it up with scriptures from the... Yeah, and they always try to back it up with scriptures from the New Testament. It makes me mad. Yeah. It's like, who's the authority? Who is the ultimate authority? Granted, you have people in the New Testament that love the Most High. Some of them kept to His commands and some of them didn't, right? Because they were mixing religions that they was trying to appease and appeal to everybody. Oh, yes, you can do this and you can do this. And Yahuwah constantly tells you, you do not do anything. Don't mix anybody with me. But that's what was happening here. And it's done so subtly. It's done so subtly. But when you begin to do it, you lose more and more power because you're doing the very things Yahuwah has told us not to do, right? And you become guilty of worshiping multiple gods, right? Okay, so, all right. We are starting in The Legends of the Jews on page 261 if you got this book. If you have the smaller book, it is volume 3, and the section is Amalek defeated. Okay. Where we at? 49 minutes? Okay. So we should be able to finish this section. Oh, we should be able to finish both of these little sections. Okay, y'all. Now, Moses, Dana said I didn't debate. I said, oh, okay. Yeah, like y'all don't want to listen. So I ain't gonna waste my breath. Moses now instructed Joshua in regard to his campaign against Amalek, saying, Choose us out men and go out, fight with Amalek. The words choose us characterizes the modesty of Moses, who treated his disciple Joshua as an equal. In these words, he has taught us that the honor of our disciples should stand as high as our own. Joshua did not at first want to expose himself to danger and leave the protection of the cloud, but Moses said to him, abandon the cloud and set forth against Amalek. If thou dost ever hope to set the crown upon thy head. And he commanded him to choose his warriors from among the pious and God-fearing, and promised him that he would set a fast for the day following, and implore Yahuwah in behalf of the good deeds of the patriarchs and the wives of the patriarchs to stand by Israel in this war. Joshua acted in accordance with these commands and set out against Amalek to conquer, whom required not only skillful strategy, but also adeptness in the art of magic. For Amalek was a great magician and knew that propitious and the unpropitious hour of each individual, and in this way regulated his attacks against Israel. He attacked that one at night whose death had been predicted for a night, and whose death had been preordained for a day. He did attack by day. But in this art too, Joshua was his match, for he too knew how to properly attack, how the attack upon individuals, and he destroyed Amalek, his sons, the armies he himself commanded, and those under the leadership of his sons. But in the very heat of the battle, Joshua treated his enemies humanely. He did not repay like with like. Far was it from him to follow Amalek's example in mutilating the corpses of the enemy. Instead, with a sharp sword, he cut off the enemy's heads, an execution that does not dishonor. But only through the aid of Moses did Joshua win his victory. Moses did not go out into battle, but through his prayer and through his influence upon the people and inspiring them with faith, the battle was won. While the battle raged between Israel and Amalek, Moses was stationed on a height where, supported by the Levite Aaron and the Judean Hur, the representatives of the two noble tribes, Levi and Judah, he fervently implored Yahuwah's aid. He said, O Lord of the world, through me hast thou brought Israel out of Egypt. Through me hast thou cleft the sea, and through me hast thou wrought miracles. So thou do work miracles for me, and lend me victory to Israel. For I well know that while all other nations fight only to the 6th hour of the day, this sinful nation stand in battle ranks till sunset. Moses did not consider it sufficient to pray alone to Yahuwah, but he raised his hands towards heaven as a signal for the whole nation to follow his example and trust in Yahuwah. As often as he then raised his hands to heaven, and the people prayed with him, trusting that Yahuwah would lend them to victory, they were indeed victorious. As often, however, as Moses let down his hands and the people ceased prayer, weakening in their faith in Yahuwah, Amalek conquered. But it was hard for Moses to constantly raise his hands. This was Yahuwah's way of punishing him for being somewhat negligent in the preparations for the war against Amalek. Hence, Aaron and Hur were obliged to hold up his arms and assist him in his prayers. As furthermore, he was unable to stand all the time, he seated himself on a stone, disdaining a soft and comfortable seat, saying, so as long as Israel is in distress, I will share it with them. At evenfall, the battle was not yet decided. Therefore, Moses prayed to Yahuwah that he might stay the setting of the sun and thus enable Israel to draw the battle to a close. Yahuwah granted this prayer, and the sun did not set until Israel had completely destroyed their enemy. Thereupon, Moses blessed Joshua with the words, someday the sun shall stand still for thy sake, as it did today for mine. And this blessing was later filled at Gibeon when the sun stood still to help Joshua in his battle against the Amorites. So this is the second time that the sun stood still, although the Bible only puts one of the accounts in there. And we also know how Joshua got the sun to stand still. Y'all remember what he did? Y'all remember what he did? He had to tell the angel who was the guardian or the ruler of the sun to stop singing his song. While nature is moving in its course, it sings a song. Everything that Yahuwah has created sings a song. In order for the sun to stand still, Joshua had to ask the sun, the angel of the sun, to stop singing its song. And Yahuwah granted him that wish. The angel of the sun stopped singing so it could stand still and continue to give its light while they won that battle. We read that early on, and we read that a few weeks ago. It was going into the details of that. Okay. Although Amalek had not received the merited punishment from the hands of Joshua, still his enterprise against Israel had not been entirely unavailing. Oh, I just remember something I was saying when we was talking about this blood, y'all. I was going to tell y'all something that happened yesterday. Hold on. Let me finish reading this, then I'm going to go back to that. Because I just realized I didn't tell y'all what I was going to tell y'all that happened yesterday. Okay. Although Amalek had not received the merited punishment from the hands of Joshua, still his enterprise against Israel had not been entirely unavailing. The miraculous exodus of Israel out of Egypt, and especially the cleaving of the sea, had created such alarm among the heathens that none among them had dared to approach Israel. But this fear vanished soon as Amalek attempted to compete in battle with Israel. Although he was terribly beaten, still the fear of the inaccessibility of Israel was gone. It was with Amalek as with the foolhardy wight who plunged into a scalding hot tub. He scalded himself terribly, yet the tub became cold through his plunge into it. Hence, Yahuwah was not content with the punishment Amalek received in the times of Moses, but swore by his throne and by his right hand that he would never forget Amalek's misdeeds, that in this world and in the time of the Messiah, he would visit punishment upon him and would completely exterminate him in the future world. So as long as the seed of Amalek exists, the face of Yahuwah is, as it were, covered, and will only then come to view when the seed of Amalek shall have been entirely exterminated. Yahuwah had at first left the war against Amalek in the hands of his people. Therefore, he bade Joshua, the future leader of the people, never to forget the war against Amalek. And if Moses had listened intently, he would have perceived from this command of Yahuwah that Joshua was destined to lead the people into the promised land. But later, when Amalek took part in the destruction of Jerusalem, Yahuwah himself took up the war against Amalek, saying, by my throne, I vow not to leave a single descent of Amalek under the heavens. Yea, no one shall even be able to say that this sheep or whether that belongs to an Amalekite. Yahuwah bade Moses impress upon the Jews to repulse no heathen. Yahuwah bade Moses impress upon the Jews to repulse no heathen should he desire conversion, but never to accept an Amalekite as a proselyte. It was in consideration of this word of Yahuwah that David slew the Amalekite who announced to him the death of Saul and Jonathan, for he saw in him only a heathen, although he appeared in the guise of a Jew. Part of the blame for the destruction of Amalek falls upon his father, Eliphaz. He used to say to Amalek, my son, dost thou know who will possess this world in the future world? Amalek paid no attention to his allusion to the future fortune of Israel, and his father urged him no more strongly upon him, although it would have been his duty to instruct his son clearly and fully. He should have said to him, my son, Israel will possess this world as well as the future world. Dig wells then for their use and build a road for them, so that thou mayest be judged worthy to share in the future world. But as Amalek had not been sufficiently instructed by his father, his wantonness In his wantonness, he undertook to destroy the whole world. Yahuwah, who tries to rein in the heart, and said to him, O thou fool, I created thee after the 70 nations, but for thy sins thou shalt be the first to descend into hell. To glorify the victory over Amalek, Moses built an altar which Yahuwah called my miracle. For the miracle of Yahuwah wrought against Amalek and the war of Israel was, as it were, a miracle for Yahuwah. For so as long as the Israelites dwell in sorrow, Yahuwah fills with them, and a joy for Israel is a joy for Yahuwah. Hence, too, the miraculous victory over Israel's foes was a victory for Yahuwah. Okay, we're gonna read this next section, which only gonna take me a few minutes. That's like the last little chapter of chapter 1. Okay, so yesterday, right? Listen, I was standing in the kitchen, and this goes back to listening and making Yahuwah, what Yahuwah says, the authority of everything we believe and how we operate, right? Okay, so I was in here yesterday washing dishes before I was getting ready to start cooking, and I had my phone sitting on the bar, and I cut it to a video on YouTube. I was looking for something, but then after I had finished watching like this news clipping, another video had kind of like popped up, and normally I wouldn't click on it, but it's this channel that I was actually, I'm gonna be honest, there's a couple channels that I was following up until yesterday, right? And it's one of them, it's like Messenger Sent or something. But anyway, this particular channel, they go through YouTube and they pull all the different dreams and stuff that people have that they say is from Yahuwah or from God or whatever kind of dream. So all these dreams you'll hear differently. You'll hear them saying Jesus and all the different type of dreams that they believe is from God, right? You know, so some of them I found to be interesting. I'm like, okay, because I'm a dreamer, although I don't like share them like all the time, like a lot of people do. I'm interested in seeing what type of dreams other people are having, right? And say, and I wonder if that's really from the Most High or not. So now that I've been reading and studying the Torah, it's like, okay, some of these things is not from Yahuwah. I'm better able to decipher between truth and error, right? So, but I was listening to some of those, and it's other couple different channels, even some channels that is like giving prophecies and stuff. But I will start to wonder as I was reading through the scripture, I was like, wait a minute. Okay, I know the prophets prophesied, but they weren't prophesying every day. Like, but these people seem like they got a prophecy every single day. And these people having dreams like every single night. I say, now I know you've given me the gift of dreams. And I dream. I was like, but you was not giving me a dream for the nations every single night, right? But it would grab my attention. I'm like, oh, that's I don't know. They must be extra holy or something where they getting all this. And, you know, I would listen to them like, that's interesting. Not that I would go with it or anything, but I was listening to it. Okay, so yesterday, and I gave you that little background information to tell you what happened yesterday. So that same channel, it was Messenger or something. I forget the last part of it. But it had this young girl. She couldn't have been any older than 25 years old. And, you know, she was telling her dream. You know how sometimes you have dreams that just shake you to your core, right? And she was telling this dream, and she was about at tears and stuff. And she said, and Jesus said he was coming soon, and this and this and that. And, you know, my children are like, and she was just going, it's the common thread of what you always hear the people say about their dreams, right? It's the same thing. So as I was listening to her, I started thinking about what I was reading about the different angels over each nation and how those angels kind of lead that nation. That angel speaks to that nation, right? And I'm like, okay, now the angel, remember when the lots were cast, Israel fell to Yahuwah. So Yahuwah is the only one that Israel should be listening to. And although we have an angel, Michael, that sets over us, the one who talks to Israel is Yahuwah himself, right? That's Yahuwah's lot. As they divided up the nations of people, the lot of Israel fell to Yahuwah. So we are Yahuwah is the only one that we should be listening to, right? Like our dreams, when we get them, we need to decipher, did this come from the Most High? Or is this being generated out of my own spirit, out of my own wants and what I want to see happen? Because that happens too. You have to be able to decipher between it. Okay, so what she was saying, I was listening. I was like, oh, shoot. You know, and for a quick second, you know how when you go into church, when you're still in church and people getting up they're giving prophecies and stuff, and it kind of shake you a little bit, like, oh my gosh, I gotta get saved today. And it's like one of those type of things where you run down to the altar, and it's more of a fear that's pushing you instead of like a really heartfelt, I want to do this because this is my decision. It's not that making a solid decision, and based on the information that I've come across, this seems best, I'm going to choose this. And you can do it with a level head. And that's what I realized. This is how Yahuwah leads his people. He don't want us getting all overly emotional and choosing things out of emotion and stuff, because we may change our mind when we come down off that emotional high, right? And so that's what was happening. I realized as she was talking, it was getting to play on my heartstrings. And I noticed it immediately. I was like, oh, I don't like that. I don't do that no more. You know, I was like, because I'm like, Father, I'm following you. And although I'm still emotional, but I'm not going to allow you to play on my emotions, like to take advantage of me either, right? When we got to learn how to rein that in, because we are easily manipulated, because we're really emotional, right? So you got to learn how to get that under control. So what she said, and I was like, oh, I'm like, Father, is what she's saying true? I was like, cause am I wrong? I was like, I don't want to be leading nobody astray. What she said, and it was like, and I listened for a second, and I went washing dishes because I kept listening to it, and I'm like, what? And then again, I was like, wait. I'm like, Father, I think I'm almost confused. I said, is what she's saying true? And then I heard the voice of the Most Holy so clear, like he was standing there right beside me. Like I heard it with my ears, but I heard it on the inside of me, right? And it was like, he said it just as calm and it just as clear. He said, now, would you be confused if you was only listening to my voice? I'm like, yep, nope. And I immediately cut the video off. I was like, yep. I unsubscribed from that channel. All the other channels that I was listening to that give their dreams and stuff, you can clearly tell it's mixed with different type of interpretations and people who are still full of church doctrine. And I went and I unsubscribed, and I made sure, do not recommend nothing to me from this channel. Boom, 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 boom. I was like, I cannot allow myself to be infiltrated with anybody else shenanigans, Father. So, but that's what I wanted to tell y'all. That's what I was going to share with y'all earlier. That's why we have to know what Yahuwah has said. When we don't know what Yahuwah has said, we can be tossed to and we literally can be tossed to and fro, and we start wavering. But when we know what Yah has said, or you have an instruction from your father, nope, Dad said don't do that. Oh, but you can step on the porch. You ain't leaving the house. You just stepping on the porch. He said don't open the door. Like, you, even if it's your cousin or something, come on, sit down on the porch and chat with me. Daddy said do not unlock his door and go out the house. But you ain't leaving. It's like it's like that Jedi mind trick. But you're not leaving the house. You're just coming on the porch. Isn't the porch a part of the house? And it's those things when you begin to listen to that and you don't follow the directions exactly as your father has said, you in danger of getting your tail towed off or cut off from the community. He said, don't unlock my door and go out. And then you listen to them and you go out there and sit on the porch. And if y'all ain't got a ring, like nowadays you got a ring where you can see everything or whatever, cameras, or Daddy got off work a little bit early and he pull up while you sitting on the porch, and you immediately make eye contact and you know you was wrong. Immediately you start sweating under your arms, your heart drop, and you cussing in your head like, oh, because you knew you was in trouble. Although, yes, technically you didn't leave the house. You sitting on the porch. But Daddy said, don't unlock my door, don't go out the house. You disobeyed him. You had to unlock the door first of all. You broke the first command. Don't unlock my door. You unlock the door for your messy cousin. Open the door and set your butt on the porch, sitting out this house. You think, oh, I'm good. Daddy gonna be cool. I ain't leaving the house. But his exact instruction was, don't unlock my door. Don't leave out the house. And you broke them. The first two commandments he told you, don't unlock my door, don't leave out this house. You unlocked the door and you left the house. Even though you were technically still on the property, sitting by the door on the porch, you broke the first two commands. He told you not to do it. You and your cousin about to get your tails whooped. Okay, so that was my point of bringing it up. Just using that example. So even us, we have to be careful of what we allow ourselves to listen to, even videos on YouTube and stuff, because if they're not keeping Yahuwah's commands fully, and they're kind of dibbling and dabbling a little bit, and they're kind of, oh, well, you can, yes, no, he said not to do this. Technically, we're not doing this. We just right here. No, we ain't skirting the field. Keisha got stoned for that last week. No, and I'm telling on YouTube, Daddy, look, he won't get off the porch. You need to do something. He's trying to get me to come out the house, So that's what I wanted to say. So if we know what Yahuwah has said, if he said, listen, don't eat blood or drink blood in any kind of fashion. We are not to eat blood or drink blood in any kind of fashion, and we ain't supposed to play like we doing it. You got it? I hope we made that clear. So I was taught a really good lesson yesterday. I'm like, yep, Father, forgive me. I'm sorry. I unsubscribed from that channel, the little prophecy channel that be given. Like it seemed like, I'm like, how is it? And I'm like, and these people not even like Israel for real. Like they're not like, I'm like, no, I'm like, is you talking to them like that? I said, oh, is that the angel of their nation talking to them? I said, because even when I look through here, the prophets, they're not daily going out. It's like, look, oh, y'all ain't listening? Okay, shut your mouth, Jeremiah. Don't say nothing else. Don't pray for them no more. Let them head right into destruction. Like, Yahuwah doesn't operate that way. They would have you thinking that Yahuwah was constantly running, like, I don't want to say running his mouth, but I don't want to refer to the most holy like that. They make you think that Yahuwah is constantly saying this. No, he gave a command. You need to follow the instruction. And if not, it's people, it's adding all them extra words on top of stuff. And it's like, you doing too much talking. What did Yahuwah say? Let's go back, because there are certain things that he has addressed that he ain't going to say nothing else because he already gave it to you there. Now, if you don't want to go read it, that's your own fault. You get your own self cut off. Okay. Oh, yeah. 111. You know what? It's Tuesday, y'all. I'm going to stop. I said I will. An hour and 11 minutes. It's just this last little section, but we're going to save it. We're going to save it for tomorrow. It's about Jethro. I ain't going to do it today. So we're going to go ahead and end it there, y'all. So I hope you enjoyed the reading for today. We read Leviticus 15, 16, and 17, and Legends of the Jews. We started at page 261, and we ended on page 262. So let's go ahead over here to the blessing today. So we get about our day because it's Tuesday. I can't run over time too much. Y'all got to get to work. And I do not want y'all being late on my account. So, but if you're here and you're supposed to be at work, you know you're supposed to get off here and go to work. So don't get in trouble because you're trying to stay and listen. This is recorded. Y'all come back later and watch this. Okay. The blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses of Numbers chapter 6 is the Nazirite vow. Man or woman can't take it. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, on this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, may Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. That's it for today. You got to go on ahead and get out of here. I love y'all. Now I'll see y'all bright and early in the morning, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.